What is up, y'all? It's your boy Leo here doing another MLB Championship Series video here in this one. I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it. This is my first predictions of doing this video. I think it's gonna be very, very exciting here in this one. We have the Bells and Sprites here in the Summer League. In the Summer League, Bells and Sprites. That's gonna be a very, very exciting matchup. You have two great teams. You have Jack's offense. Who is a pretty solid offense. He actually had a pretty good solid offense last year. And the Bells, they had a really good offense last year too. Um, I think this matchup is gonna be very, very fun. Another matchup, with Jack and Leo, that's always a very fun matchup. We had a very fun matchup like that in basketball between the Bells and the Sprites in basketball. That was a very fun matchup, but the Sprites and Giacomattis did ended up winning that one. Congratulations to the Sprites and Giacomattis for winning the NBA Championship Series of 2025-2026 season. Congratulations to them. And now they're going to be playing against the Bells here in baseball. This is going to be a very, very, very different game to play. Very different game. You're playing against a different. It feels like you're playing against, a different sport, different opponent, but you're playing against still the same opponent, but it's just in baseball. This series is going to be very fun. I think this series is going to be very, very fun. It's going to be a very, very exciting series. You have two of these great teams. You have this Bells team, the Bells team, who has been one of the best in baseball. They were one of the best in baseball in 2026 this year when they won it all in seven games. Congratulations to them also. They deserved it. Beating the Bernice in 7 games was not easy for this Bells team. And me, because, my pitching, I just had to go out there and pitch well. I had to go out there and pitch well to Dalton. He's a very tough offense out there. Try to give it my all out there. But it was very frustrating at times because, what this Bernice team can do. I mean, it's unbelievable what they can do on both sides of the floor. I mean, especially with their pitching being pretty solid, even though the pitching didn't really have a great year this year. But their offense was definitely the reason why they did go to 7 games. But without that offense, I don't think they have a shot at going to 7 games. That's just how good this Bernice offense is. And it came to a point where I think in that fifth inning, because the Bells were dominating in that game, the Bernice almost came back and beat them, which was pretty crazy. But luckily, the Bells offense in that top of the sixth was clutch in that moment. And the Bells just won it all in that sixth inning. And they wanted it more too. And you could just really tell they wanted it more. Excuse me. But now they're going to be playing against a familiar matchup against the Sprites and Giacomattis, which it did play last year in a best of 7 series. So unfortunately, we weren't able to finish that series off because unfortunately we just had things going on. But now, hopefully this year, we can definitely see who is going to be lifting that Lombardi Trophy for the either going to be the Bells or the Sprites here. We're going to be doing the predictions on who's going to win this series. I have my predictions locked down. I know who's going to win this series. Jack, if you are watching this, you're probably not going to like my prediction, and then you're probably going to be thinking, I want to prove this guy wrong again. Because remember I said, all right, basketball, I have a very good shot, which I pretty much did, very good shot of being Jack. I think I can easily beat Jack in basketball because the experience with Dalton, the games that I play with him, and guess freaking what? You absolutely proved me wrong and you won it in 6 games. For my prediction here in this one, I have the Bells winning this championship series. And we're going to go through the prediction on who is going to win this series, on who I have winning these games. I think the Bells win this one. But if the Sprites, if they prove me wrong here, then they do. Then I'm going to be the laughing stock here. So, Jack, if you're watching this, you're probably going to want to prove me wrong here. So, here we go. Let's go through the predictions here on who is going to win this one. All right, so here we go. Game 1 of the championship series. This is going to be a very, very interesting matchup. You have the Bells and the Sprites here playing in Game 1 at the start of the month of July. This is going to be a very good game, Game 1 of the championship series. You have two of the greatest teams, the Bells and the Sprites here. Sprites, we talk a lot about what they can do on the offense, and especially with their pitching too. It's just like, you're playing against, a very difficult matchup in the Bells here in this one. I think in this series, the Sprites, the team that they're going to be playing against, it's just not going to be very easy. You're playing against a top level one offense, like a top 2-1 offense. You're playing against a very talented offense who can hit the ball, who's one of the hardest teams to strike out. And I just think, like, Now, I think the Sprites definitely do know him a little bit well, in baseball, because there's times where they have pitched well to them and they've beaten him before. But man, this Bells team, and you know me, I just feel like I'm different this year. Especially when we went to 7 games against the Berneeds. It was clutch in that moment. Clutch in that moment. And this is something the Bells can do very, very well. Their offensive status this year, they led the league in home runs. You got to play against a guy who led the league in home runs. You're playing against a guy who's one of the best in runners in scoring position. You're playing against a guy who can be patient with the pitches, and you're playing against a guy who just doesn't like to, you know, doesn't like to over, doesn't like to play the game too way too crazy, being risky and stuff, being smart in the bases, not being lost. I just think that Bell's team is capable of doing that. They did a very good job doing that against the Bernese. They were really good with on base percentage. On base percentage was very, very good. They made some very good contact. They were a very hard team to strike out. They were one of the top hardest teams to strike out. They were right up there with the Bernese, the hardest team to strike out in the championship league. And I think the Sprites right now, going into this series, they know it's going to be challenging. They know it's going to be extremely challenging when you have to play against this Bells team. But if this Sprites team wants to beat the Bells in this championship series, and they want to have the success like they did, like the Bernese did against this Bells team, you are going to have to pitch very well to this Bells team. You got to pitch well to them, because if you're pitching well to them, then you got to rely on their pitching, which Leo's pitching can have some success too. Because I'm not saying Leo's pitching can't have success, but if you're relying on the pitching against the Bells, if you're relying on the Bells pitching to do everything, that's where the Bells can really struggle in that moment. They can struggle in that moment when their offense doesn't get going. But when their offense does get going and they can absolutely put on a big rally, it's going to be really hard to beat them. This is if the pitching can do well, which is most likely possible. And I expect the Sprites to be really competitive in this series too, in these games. I expect them to be really competitive in these games. But I expect it to be very challenging because you're playing against a pitcher that was really good against the Bernese and one of the top offenses in the league. So that's going to be extremely challenging. Who I do for this game one to start the series in the month of July, I have the Bells taking game one of the championship series to start the season off. So I have the Bells here in game one just because of what the Bells can do. And, it's about their offense. And especially with the home runs, they are one of the best teams when they hit home runs. They are number one in hitting home runs. They were also a number one with runners in scoring position. They were the best on all categories. So if the Bells can just show they can do that against Sprites, which is most likely they're going to do, they will have a good shot. On top of that, if the pitching can perform like they did against the Berneats, watch out. This Bells team could be very dangerous. Now for the Sprites. If the Sprites want to win game one and start the series, they're going to have to pitch very well, and their offense is going to have to generate pressure for this Bells pitching staff, and that's how they're going to feel the Sprites. Pause. Not like that. That's how they're going to generate pressure for this Bells team. They got to put the pressure on them. They have to play with pace. They got to play fast. They got to hit the ball well. They got to play both. They got to play well on both ends of the floor with the pitching, offense. And I just think that's going to be really challenging against this Bells team, which most likely they can do, but it's going to be very challenging because this Bells team is very, very, very talented. Game two of the championship series. Jack, this might shock you a little bit because I know me and you have a really good competitive series. I have the Bells going up 2-0 to start the series. Now, here's the reason why I think the Bells can go in these can go on the road and beat the Sprites these next two games. It's the Bells offense. It's what they can do on offense. It's how many homers they can hit. They have a lot of power. They know how to hit. They know how to hit very well. They're one of the top offenses in the league, and they're one of the hardest hitters to strike out. They were really good this year. The Bells offense had a generational run this year. And if you look at what they did against the Berneats this year, that ain't easy at all. And then compared to what they did in 2025, dude, that's not easy. It's just not easy when you play against a guy that knows how to hit the ball, that can generate a lot of pressure, especially when you hit homers. Now, if this Bells team can hit if they can hit a lot of homers against the Sprites team, they're gonna absolutely have a really good shot here of winning this series because of what they can do on offense, and especially the homers. Yeah, it's obviously they can go up 2-0 in this, and it's most likely they can either with a healthy Sprites, not healthy Sprites. Doesn't matter because this Bells team is gonna go out there and give it their all because that's just what they do. Now, going into game three here, I do have the Sprites here. I have the Sprites here winning at least one game. I think they can at least take this one because I don't think they want to get swept. I can see them taking game one. I can see them taking game three of the championship series in this one because, the Bells pitching at times can be really bad. And, sometimes it's really hard to trust that Bells pitching when, they don't play perfect. And then there's at times where the Bells offense doesn't play perfect either. But I do think the Sprites will bounce back and beat them in game three. But the Bells here in game four, or the Sprites, this is the matchup here of game four of the championship series. Jack, this might shock you a little bit, or it might not, it might will, or if it does shock you, if it does, if it doesn't, yeah. The Bells are gonna win in four. I have the Bells winning four games in this series. I have them winning in four. The reason was they could even win in three if they're just that good, and especially how short this series is. When you play against a guy like that, man, it's not gonna be easy. But I see the Bells I see the Bells taking in this series because if you look at what they did against the Bernites, it wasn't that easy. They won two games against the Bernites in games 2 and 3. You're playing against a Bells team that can also do that against, a Sprites team that they're going to be very confident against. Now, will this Sprites team be competitive? Absolutely. I think they're going to be very competitive. I can see that happening. Now, there's any of this can happen. If the Bells want this to happen, if they want to at least win in three, they're gonna have to pitch really good. Offense is gonna have to be explosive, and I just think everything is gonna have to go right for this Bells team if they want to do that, which is most likely they can too. But I do see them taking it in for it just because I feel like the Sprites team can also be really good too with the pitching or the offense, depending on how that goes for the Sprites. I do see them taking at least one, but for the Bells, I just think the Bells right now are just a better overall team. And it's not saying the Sprites are going to be this and they don't have a bright future and all that. They can also be very good in the future too. I just see the Bells right now. I think this is the Bells year, and I just think the Bells are just a better overall team. And look, if the Sprites somehow make this a very interesting series where this is not it may not turn out to look like this, but this is my prediction on how I do see this series going. Um, that's just how I see it going. If it does go exactly like this, then holy smoke, I'm gonna go back to this video and I'm gonna be thinking, man, was I right? If this does turn out to look like this, it might not because this series could go either way. It can go, yeah, like maybe the series is tied up to start the series. Maybe the Sprites go up, and then anything could happen in this series. It's just going to be a matter of who's going to be the better team overall. I do think the Bells will take it in four just because I think they're just a better overall team. And I just think the Sprites are playing against a very difficult matchup in the Bells, especially if the Bells can also do that against the Bernites, which they are a very difficult team, especially playing against the two-time champs. It just isn't easy. I just see the Bells doing it just because of what I saw, what they did against the Bernites. And I just see that happening in baseball this year. But Jack, if you are watching this, let me know what you got in the comments. You can drop it down a comment. You guys drop me a comment. I'll definitely take a look and read at it and see what you guys think of this prediction. Was I wrong? Was I right? What do y'all think? Drop it down in the comments, Jack. If you are watching this, I bet you're gonna want to prove me wrong, bro. But yeah, that's my prediction on who's gonna win the series. I see the Bells winning in four, and that is my prediction. I'm going to be doing another prediction with the Bernite and the Bells here for the basketball championship series. That should be a very, very interesting one. Our first season will start in August. That's going to be a very, very interesting one. So I will drop another video of my predictions on YouTube of talking about that championship game on who is going to win that one. I think that's going to be a very, very interesting matchup, and I cannot wait for it. I cannot wait for that series, and I think that's going to be a very, very exciting one to watch. This series of Bernice and the Bells. And this Bells and Sprites team, that's going to be a very, very exciting one, too. You got Jack Amatis, you have Leonardo Galeski. That's always such a fun matchup to play against. But I can't wait for that series. That's going to be a really good one. We got some great series coming up. But yeah, I will catch you all later in my next prediction. My prediction video. We're gonna be talking about the Bells and the Bernice Bass NBA Championship Series on who is going to win that one. I know who's going to win that one, but we're gonna talk about it going into the next video. We'll see you all later. I'll see you on my next podcast for the Basketball Championship Series prediction video on who's gonna win that one. Bye bye, y'all. Later.